3, 2.
Oh, we're live already.
We're
I noticed
live.
it in the yesterday's Substack, yesterday's Fivestack here on Substack. Welcome, my name's Dean. That's Zeb. How they got the preamble of us preparing for the show, and you know what I really liked about that is we were no different preparing for the show than we were delivering the show, which means we're authentic performers here. So
we are very authentic because we're not really performing. We're just sort of being ourselves. Like right now,
shooting the shit
pouring out of my face is because we're trying to get to the news. You know, what just happened at the Vatican is we just had our first smoke signal from the conclave. It
no
blew
deal.
black, as it were. So that's what we're seeing in the middle there is the live picture right now of the Vatican. That is a gorgeous shot, actually. Let's go big widescreen. Let's go big widescreen. Okay, it's not so easy for me to do. I got to do a couple of quick changes here.
I don't think if you're going to be producing your own show, I don't think you have to refer to what you have to do to change things when you're producing it. You're a professional producer. You can just change it.
Okay.
You can.
Thanks for the notes. I appreciate it. There it is. There's the black smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's a little underwhelming, except I guess when there was an actual Pope elected, then it becomes more exciting. But until they do, it could take a couple of votes. They just do this one on the first day, sort of to test the oven out, you know, because they want to make sure it's working correctly. They're not really voting on anything serious today, I don't think. But who knows?
This is just like you know when you put one of those Duraflames in your fireplace, you clean out the old.
Yeah, you just want to make sure it's still functioning after last year. You know, maybe it's not as. It needs to be cleaned.
Well, the last time it was used was 13 years ago, dude. So you know.
Yeah, you never know. You know, and they have those new cleaners for those for grills now. I see advertised on TV all the time. So maybe they need to do some of that sort of cleaning out and stuff as well.
Yeah, maybe they lined it with tin foil to really kind of. You know, get all the gunk out like you do with your barbecue. I don't know, but I know that you've been carrying the feed, of this conclave on your socials, which is just kind of basically what we're looking at. Even though there's currently black smoke coming out now, there wasn't before. Maybe there was a vote, maybe there wasn't. Like you said, maybe it's a little Catholic chimney sweep, getting things ready for the big vote. Who knows? But have you been also, and this is just, you know, for my own edification, have you also been watching the feed?
Well, I've been, while doing some other work, because there's so much of it to do, I was watching and doing this live. You know, these are people reacting on the streets right now.
What are they reacting to?
To the non-news.
But,
you know, thank you. No, they do a very good job, you know, covering this event. It's a well-rehearsed thing because the entire world watches this thing. So there's no Pope elected now. This is not like remember when they elected the Speaker of the House and they couldn't get Kevin McCarthy elected that time. They had so many votes. It won't take so many votes. They think within 2 or 3 days this will be done. 4 votes a day, maybe even tomorrow. Who knows? It could be done by tomorrow.
Well, lucky for the rest of the Cardinals. Matt Gaetz is not a Cardinal, so they should have no problem confirming a new Pope.
That is very true. Matt Gaetz is not a Cardinal and never likely to be a Cardinal. You know. Yeah, so that's the story. I mean, these pictures are so nice. I just like looking at them because that's beautiful. That aerial drone image that they're giving us there.
Yeah.
Wow. And a preview of your future vacation. So that's also
I'm leaving. I'm going there next week. As a matter of fact, we leave on Monday. I don't really reveal my vacation plans, but I will be going to the Pantheon. I will be going to see Hadrian's Door, which I'm excited for. I'm going to the Colosseum, and I'm going to see if I can take a quick rip to the Vatican. We're only there for like 2 days before we head over to Sicily, Tuscany, Chianti.
Wow. This is a great trip you've got.
Right. Yeah, I'm a big fan of history. I'm going to the cradle of like Western civilization. Right? I'm very excited, and I'm a philosophy guy too, so... big Marcus Aurelius guy, Epictetus, Seneca, Zeno of Citium, even though he was Greek. But yeah, that is where, you know, my heartbeat lives, and I'm a big history buff, and so I'm really excited, really pumped to see the birthplace of all of it. Catholicism's only been around for a couple thousand years, right? It's I mean, Rome's a lot older. By
definition,
than that. Yeah, but that's where all the artwork is, right? Sistine Chapel, you pointed that out, probably be closed at that time. And who knows, dude? Who knows? Maybe I might get to go down there and do a live like Fivestack from Vatican City with you, where I'm like, we have a pope.
You could maybe meet the new pope. You know, you might be able to have a sit down with the new pope.
God and I have an agreement. I don't go into his house. He doesn't come into mine, and we're good.
Well,
but I'll go to Vatican City.
Hey, if JD Vance could go see the Pope.
Can we just talk about that before we get to the five stack and the things?
So much, go for it.
JD Vance, is he like the worst luck omen of fucking all time? Not only did he go meet the Pope dies the next day. Not only did he go to India, Pakistan, they start a war a couple days later.
Yeah.
Everything he touches dies as well. I mean, you got the death duo in the White House.
Look, these guys could not be any worse than they are. I mean, they could not be any worse. They are screwing up left, right, and center. Obviously, I watched JD Vance. This is what I do for fun. I watched him speak to the Munich Ministers' Conference in DC today, and he was like, "Well, maybe you weren't going to have me back after the last time I gave you a speech." And they said, "Yeah, we were considering not having you back because you threatening all sorts of crazy shit." But he said, "But he's like, thank you for having me back." And then he goes on and he does like an hour-long walking back of everything the Trump administration has done in the last while. Are you pointing to my lip or are you pointing to your lip?
No, I'm listening. I'm listening intently. I'm just rubbing my face. No. Don't you're all paranoid over there, dude. It's okay.
No, I'm just kidding. The thing is, this is a much more complicated setup than the phone setup as I was describing. But Vance went on and on about just walking back everything they've done. Really, it's sounding like they're just apologizing. Now he's talking about how he wants to be an ally of Europe, how he wants to sell them military equipment, how he just doesn't understand why there's so much resistance to them buying American military equipment. I'm like, what just happened? What happened?
Did he really? He gave a speech that's awesome. That's awesome because it's all you've seen for the past 2 days. Trump capitulating to Carney in the Oval Office. J.D. Vance capitulating to EU leaders going, fuck, sorry about all that. I came out a little hot. You're destroying our ability to sell military equipment. And the people at Halliburton are a little pissed off. So are my friends over at BlackRock. Can we kick this off? Take me through, give me some of the minutiae. It's Schadenfreude. I love it. What else did he say?
Well, just those are the key points that I heard. But, he also pointed out that, the trade talks are taking place right now or about to start in Switzerland, where Besant and the Treasury Secretary is facing off with China. Finally, having lied about having a meeting so many times in the last few weeks, they are actually going to have a meeting. And I think that meeting is also going to be a bit of a walk back because China really doesn't want to have any conversations about anything until the tariffs are completely removed.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's going to be the palate cleanser meeting that they have tomorrow is that they have to agree that there'll be a temporary pause on everything. Just in time because empty store shelves are about to arrive in America, which is no fun. So that's another thing that Vance seemed to be dancing around as how, they tried something, they were trying to reset the world, they didn't quite succeed, but it doesn't mean it's, it was all for naught. There'll be some good that comes out of it. There won't be, but that's what he was trying to say. None of these are in our top 5 stories of the day, by the way.
No, that's okay. These are a couple nice little primers. I always love some Schadenfreude to start the show. And I'm taken by your fascination of the chimney cam in Vatican City. I think it's the cutest thing ever, dude. I really do. You're like, so beautiful there. Look at these drone shots. And you've had that chimney on your feed like all day long. I think it's awesome, though. Look. Your interest in the history and all the other stuff that comes with it is very cool. Despite my naysaying anti-religious attitude, I think it's really cute that you have got this on your post.
I'm a real news guy. Like I'm a real news guy. I did the Pope John Paul's production plan like years before he died for CTV News because they had to, they had producers looking at these things, and I that thing was buttoned down. Like they knew exactly who was going where, which reporter, which location, which camera was going to give them which shot, which guests were going to show up for which part of the conclave. I knew everything there was to know about the conclave. So I'm a bit of a fan of this whole process. But I also, way back when, this is aging me a little bit, got to do the initial production plan for the Vatican. So I love the production aspect of this. It's very predictable. Sure, yeah. It's a very predictable ritual that you sort of is beautiful because it's so predictable. And so it's a good way to sort of move from one office holder to another office holder in a very kind of nice, efficient way that they do it. And I love the fact that it's just a smoke signal. I think it's So simple.
Very simple way to do it. And like you said, harkens back to the time when you used to have to send smoke signals, right?
Yeah.
To give everybody a message, which is kind of cool. Little side note, because I'm not a newsie, I just like interesting things, and I'm a bit of a muckraker. Is that I talked to somebody who told me that inside Conclave, the amount of drinking that goes on with all these cardinals, they are either hammered or drinking the entire time, the ones that drink. And the amount of cigarettes that a lot of these guys go through in Conclave. So it's incredible.
They even allowed to
they're
smoke?
supplied all the booze, all the smokes, all the things that they just can't have access to the outside world. So
it would be really funny if it was just
I kind of respected
party.
that. I'm like, oh, good for those guys.
It would be really funny if it was just a giant party, eh? If it was just like you actually
closed
the door and then the disco lights came up and and all of them like, yeah, let's get down. I mean, who knows what goes? It's totally secret. We will never know what goes on in there.
I watch Conclave. I know what goes on in there.
Yeah, that's not a real movie, though.
It's a real movie.
Yeah, but it's a real movie, but it's not a true movie.
I know, because they elected a hermaphrodite pope. So sorry to spoil the movie for everybody, but
you're actually on the Fivestack on your site. Is it actually showing a feed? Because I don't see it here. I can see mine, but I don't see yours. And
no clue.
No clue. Well, did you press the? Oh, well, should we worry about it later? We'll worry about it later.
Yeah,
I think we can do about it
another time.
Okay, let's get to the number 5 story of the day.
Let's start. I'm ready.
I'm glad you're ready. I'm actually.
Oh yeah, it's live, dude.
It's
very live.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, there
Hi,
we go.
everybody.
I got to turn it off. I got too much feedback now. Okay, good. Okay. Now we're live. Now we know. Let's get started with number 5, my friend.
So number 5 won't surprise you because it's the Canada story. So we just had a really interesting visit by Prime Minister Carney to Donald Trump at the White House, and by I could just say this, Dean, you were 100% correct. Your read, whether it's led everyone else's news judgments or otherwise, you have basically predicted the story from the beginning, and you came out to be exactly correct on it. And while I can talk a lot about it because I've had my own views on it and I've got my own analysis at narrative.org, I know you've got much better analysis and a huge fact check that's on your site, deanblundell.substack.com. So at number 5, Mr. Carney goes to Washington and leaves a winner.
Yeah, he does, big time. My dad used to say something a long time ago, and I'll get to the transcript, and we'll read between the lines a little bit, and then we'll get to some of the facts of what happened yesterday, because there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation. I don't know if you know this, going around Twitter right now about how Carney got his clock cleaned yesterday by the dotard. That's absolutely...
Is that the spin that's out there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. And they're all the unnamed accounts with like 93 followers that got crypto eyes in their profile pics. It's just it's the same. It's the attempt to hijack a narrative. Mark Carney destroyed Donald Trump in world record time yesterday. He was so efficient. And I want to get to this and kind of give you a little bit of a story. My dad used to say this to me all the time when I was starting out in life. He'd say, the person with the most to say usually has the fucking least to say. Absolute masterclass when it came to Jimmy Blundell's prophetic statement yesterday. Mark Carney was surgical in how he approached, how he took down, how he managed to manage that entire room. J.D. Vance was there, by the way. He didn't say a word. Rubio didn't say a word. Yeah. It's okay. He was just a bump on a log because he knows he's outgunned, outmatched, and way out of his league yesterday. But Mark Carney was so good yesterday. He left people scratching their heads, including a lot of people that left that Oval Office yesterday, including a couple of reporters who were like, did we just watch the most masterful performance in the Oval Office or in Canadian diplomatic history? And the answer is yes. And it started with his intro. Mark Carney did not give Donald Trump any platitudes. He didn't kiss his ass once. And I'm going to read the transcribed version of his initial statement after Donald Trump went on and on about 24 karat gold and Mark Carney, you're the best. Real ass kissing. You won an election. You're great. You're a big step up. You're awesome. I love you. I want to have your babies. That was just short of that. But his opening statement transcribed. I'm going to read this to you. And I want you to pay attention to a couple of things. Thank you for your hospitality and above all, for your leadership.
Mm-hmm.
That's kissing, isn't it? No, your leadership. He didn't say your excellent leadership. He didn't say your firm leadership, your outstanding leadership. He just said, thanks above all for your leadership, because what has it led to for Mark Carney? And what has it led to for Canada? Keep that one thing in mind as we read this. Okay. He goes on to say, you're a transformational president. Not you're an incredible president. You've transformed America into a great, beautiful place, because you know he hasn't. You've transformed everything since coming in. You're the great. No, you're just a transformational president. And it's not a great transformation. Focus on the economy with relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl, other opioids, and securing the world. That's butterfly effect talk. None of that is like, you've done a great job, dude. I'm just so happy to meet you. You're such an incredible leader. You're so awesome. None of that was said. Called him transformational, then made a couple of side comments, and then was like, yeah, your fentanyl stuff, that was fun. And then he said, I've been elected with my colleagues here, with the help of my colleagues here. I'm going to spread the credit to transform Canada with similar focus on the economy, securing our borders again on fentanyl, much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic, and developing the Arctic. Now, that is not just a shot across the bow when he says much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic, and developing the Arctic. That's him literally bogeying Donald Trump's expansionist dreams, like in less than 30 words. It was incredible. And then he says, and the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together. And I also look forward to addressing some of those issues that we have, but also finding those areas of mutual cooperation so we can go forward. Not a single compliment, all ambiguous. And Donald Trump's response, thanks. That's great. Very nice. Thank you very much. Very nice statement. It wasn't. It was ambiguous. It was the thin edge of the wedge. And that's how he started the press conference yesterday. And he sat there through the dog and pony show after he said that, surgically picked apart the idea that Canada should be the 51st state. Never, 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 never. I'm sure you've seen that clip with him laughing as he said it. It's got to go down in history as one of my all-time favorite Carney moments. It's like he's fucking been on the job for like 2 weeks. And then he reasserted and fact-check him in the process where he's like, Donald Trump, and this was one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit today, is he did get fact-checked. We didn't mention it, but he got fact-checked when Donald Trump said, we don't do much business with with Canada, maybe 4%, which was this ambiguously fucking weird number he just pulled out of nowhere. And so we do more business with you than you do with us. So yeah, that's what's going on here. And Carney goes, if I may, we're your biggest client. We're your biggest client. $600 billion worth of trade back and forth. 50% of every vehicle that gets driven in America comes from Canada. And all the parts in it come from Canada. So, I would push back and I would say effectively, and he's like, so anyway, this is the truth. And I'm really happy I got to correct the record. And Donald Trump looked around and he started asking questions. I don't even think he was fucking present. I don't even think he paid attention to it. Someone made a mention on one of my lives yesterday where they were talking about whether or not Trump might be deaf. And I'm like, it's a very good opportunity after deconstructing and breaking this down that he might have some serious hearing problems as well as dementia, because he didn't have an answer. There was no bluster after that. And I don't know if he was tired, but it was almost like every time Mark Carney said something, it was devastatingly sneaky to the point where Trump and the Trump administration and the Trump regime had no idea what he was saying or what he was talking to them about or how he was treating them. They were confused. And that's also what I heard out of the Oval Office yesterday. A lot of the Trump cabinet walked out of there going, what just happened? Like, did we get owned or did we win? Or like, it's just, and Mark Carney walked out of there clapping, hands held high, and had a great press conference after the fact. And he said, I'm glad you couldn't tell what I was thinking.
There's a real difference in the way Americans do their news and Canadians do the news, and the way Americans talk about politics and sex and all these other things that are kind of hot topics, Americans really go for it. They really put it all out there. They let it all hang out. Canadians are much more relaxed about it, but also much more they hold back their true feelings by disguising them in these platitudes, in these words that Carney used yesterday. And that opening statement, and we were on the air right after, and I remember saying to you yesterday that, boy, that was, real masterful kind of thing. But would the American media actually pick up on it? And it's not really their thing. It's not really the way they don't read between lines. They just see what's out there. And if it's right in front of them, and it's a Donald Trump who's wailing and screaming about something, well, then they'll report on that. But they don't really go into the subtext of these events and into what people might have meant between the lines. And to that point, I don't think Donald Trump does either. So it may not be that he's deaf. He just is not capable of seeing the subtleties of some of Carney's comments. I just don't think he's wired in that way.
Is it entirely possible the Canadians are just generally that much smarter?
Well, I don't know if it's smarter as much as it is just a very different culture. I've lived in both places, and I got to tell you, both have their attractiveness or attractive points.
I don't disagree, but dude, like not one news outlet has bothered to go through the transcript to go, wait a second, let's digest what Mark Carney did to Donald Trump, and that opening statement is subtly, as you pointed out, devastating. Devastating. You're a really transformative guy. You're the big man on campus. You're a way to go, killer. Yeah, no, that's great. Everything you've done has led to all the beautiful things Canada's going to do. He really insinuated that several times. He's like, and thanks to you and your international security is a big thing now. You've done that. Like, and not one news outlet has said a word. They haven't gone, wow. Like, and there are a lot of us, like independent journalists, that have been able to kind of go, what just happened?
Yeah.
And parse those comments and break them down into like really simple psychological or psychoanalytical terms to describe what he did yesterday, which was psychological mastery. That Mark Carney is a master communicator on top of being a master economist, and he literally insulted Donald Trump while glad-handing him and smiling to the cameras. Like, and not one news outlet is out there going, wait a second, was Mark Carney actually nice to him? Let's break down the comments, because he wasn't. Yeah. He wasn't. Everything that he said this country was going to do as a result of Donald Trump's own stupidity. His tariffs, his threats to invade Canada, his threats to invade other countries, his threats to the EU, his threatening the international economy. He said that. Not so many words, because he's a master of communication, but that's what he was saying. And any American, whether or not you're a Trump supporter, that sees it any other way, or anybody that sees it any other way, or even worse, any Trump supporter that listened to what Mark Carney was saying, that thinks for a second that was ass kissing or that was him submitting to Donald Trump, is crazy. It's craziness to me that we're not having that conversation.
In fairness to everybody, this is Mark Carney's first adventure into the world on the stage, and I don't think people were expecting it. We've had Canadian prime ministers who have been quick. Justin Trudeau is not known for his quickness. Previous prime ministers, not so fast on their feet when it comes to words. But this one is a very unique duck, and he went in there in a world and a stage that no one is expecting. This first timer to be able to go in there and throw these hits at the leader of the free world and go unscathed, unnoticed, because he was being so smart about it. It's too good to be true, but it is actually exactly what happened. Now, we do want to correct you, because there was one news outlet that did go through the transcripts, and this is what they had to say.
It would really be a wonderful marriage, because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Aww. It's like watching an episode of Love on the Spectrum. If the spectrum was fascism. Prime Minister Carney, what do you say?
Well, if I may, As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale. And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever.
I think Donald Trump just got friend-zoned. Canada's like, you have been such an amazing ally, but I really think we just work better as sovereign neighbors. Besides, I already have a girlfriend. You've never met her because she lives up in Canada. Oh, that excuse doesn't work.
Thought we'd have some fun because it's true that's about the smartest of the analysis I saw out there about the Carney, and there was some better stuff. Obviously,
always Daily Show. They do such a good job.
But they did a great job. Daily Show did a nice job. Did you see Fallon last night?
No, I didn't. What did he say?
Do you want to see some Fallon?
Yeah. I want the reaction. I'm glad there are smarter people in entertainment than there are delivering the fucking news.
Well, some news from Washington today. President Trump hosted the new Canadian Prime Minister at the White House. Yeah, Trump said if Canada became the 51st state, it would be a wonderful marriage. And people were like, how would he know? But But the Prime Minister said Canada is not for sale and won't be for sale ever.
American friends.
Then Trump went back to browsing a world map like it's Zillow.
All right, Finland looks nice. The schools are good.
Of course, Trump's meeting with Canada's Prime Minister was very important for relations between our two countries. Beforehand, the First Lady actually put out a statement. You see this? Take a look. She said, I love when Canada's Prime Minister comes to visit because the ties between the U.S. and Canada are incredibly important for global trade, security, and democracy. There's nothing more crucial to the prosperity of the Western Hemisphere than the partnership of our northern neighbor. As always, I greatly look forward to hosting an intimate one-on-one with Canada's leader. Then Trump said, it's not Justin Trudeau anymore. And then Melania said, oh, then Mama's going to slide into Macron's DMs. Bye! I didn't expect that.
There you go.
That might be the first time I've laughed at Fallon. That was funny. I'm glad he...
Occasionally, he does okay. Occasionally, he does a good joke or two.
Right.
He's okay.
He's a little kitschy for me. But are we seeing... And this is just a quick aside before we get to number 4.
Yeah.
Are we seeing the Trump regime? Because I'm just thinking about your comment about J.D. Vance suckholing today to EU leaders in a speech, going, fuck, sorry about all that. I came out hot. Walking everything back. Trump's absolute, capitulation to Mark Carney in the Oval Office. All I want is friendship from Canada. I just want to be your friend. Are we seeing, and of course the meeting with China in Switzerland, are we seeing the Trump administration losing in real time? Mm-hmm. Are we seeing the death of whatever fucked up plan the Trump regime had to take over the world because they're being legitimately run by morons? Is that what we're seeing?
We are seeing it. I mean, there's no other. I said this yesterday as well. I think that we're beginning to see the whole thing just fall apart. And it's, it's not by accident. It's a lot of work by a lot of people that have made this thing happen. There's a lot of judges out there that keep laying down the law and saying, hey, Donald Trump, you can't do this stuff. You can't. The Aliens Enemies Act is not designed for that. You can't have deportations of innocent citizens. Obviously, you can't do that. So they keep pushing back and pushing back. And I do think we're seeing an administration that's sort of, besides almost tanking the economy completely, let's see if they are able to resuscitate it in the next day or two with a deal with China. But everything they stood for, immigration being rejected by the courts, completely rejected. They have to break the law. Now they're talking about shipping people to Libya, but it's just another stunt. It's not going to hold up. It's just another stupid thing to gaslight America. But the point is they've been proven to break the law. So then, there's that. You've got, we had been reporting on narrative about a Doge, the crypto scams, the crypto controversies that we see everywhere. I've got another follow-up coming up soon on the new feudalism, which is all about crypto and the crypto state. All of that has been now sort of found out. We sort of know that Doge is not what it was intended to be because it could only get $150 billion instead of $2 trillion. We also know that it was more of a surveillance exercise and more about getting the data together. And we also know that that probably was leading up to this crypto states situation, which we'll describe more in the next new feudalism piece, which is really about, giving the very few people the positions of crypto kings of America, and everybody else is subservient to them. And of course, in this process, they're all going to make a lot of money. And then, when we find out that Donald Trump is earning millions of dollars, or billions of dollars, I should say, with a B, of his meme coins and his Melania coins and his World Liberty Financial, whatever it is, organizations that he's doing, you realize that this is, the reason he's doing all that is to get his bribe in order to fulfill this whole crypto state dream that they and these oligarchs have. But that's all falling apart because we can see it, right? I mean, these crimes are only good if you can hold the con. If you can't hold the con, you're just like an idiot standing there pretending that something's happening, that you've got something, but you don't. And they really are just conning people. I mean, at the end of the day, this is what he's great at. He's a very good con artist. He's a very good criminal. But in this case, he's tried to do the biggest con in the world on billions of people, and they see right through it. It's not working. It's not working at all. So what happens now is a good question. I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know either. But to your point, your new feudalism piece and pointing to the crypto thing, I put out a post today because I did a bunch of research based on your stuff. And I asked a question: is anybody going to investigate Trump's $2 billion crypto grift in the Middle East? That crypto grift, the Dubai conference, what came out of that with CZ, Binance, the people that are involved, like Justin Sun, Witkoff's kid, what they're able to do. They're selling fucking condos at Trump Tower in Dubai in crypto, and all that money goes directly to Donald Trump. And he's flying there this next week to announce a series of deals between countries, which are really the only reason he's going is to announce a series of these deals and to do business from the office of the presidency and to monetize the office of the presidency. It's scary, scary shit. And it's almost like everything has been a trial balloon for distraction to keep people away from the profit taking, because dude's a 79 this year. He's got a family to support. He almost went bankrupt. This is like a financial end run where he's not trying to get billions out of the world illegally from Ponzi schemes and Bitcoins, pump and dumps and rugs. What he's doing is legitimately trying to get trillions and transfer the wealth from some of the dumbest people in the world who are willing to invest. And he's also using it as a way to enrich himself, tributes, bribes for other countries that are completely untraceable. And I went through Senator Chris Murphy stuff. I would highly encourage everybody to go and read that post, free or paid, doesn't matter. Just get informed, because that's the end goal. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that number 5 Substack half an hour long. My apologies.
No worries.
We're in the end days of this Trump rugging and scandal, and crypto is the centerpiece of the whole fucking thing.
It's not his scam, right? I mean, the way it works, and I've taken a long time to pull this together in terms of understanding who the parties are, is a group of these guys who are basically, mob fronts, mob organizations, mafia states, call them what you will, got together and they invest in a scheme. That's how they work. They invest in a scheme. Okay, we're going to try steal the $1 billion of jewels from the Met Gala. They all chip in. They all get the expenses sorted out. They all figure out how to do it, and then they do the scheme.
Yeah,
expecting the returns to come out. Right? They all share in the returns. So crypto is like a perfect vehicle for this, because anyone who jumped on board crypto early, because it's a limited supply, is part of that scheme already. And you know that the people who jumped on board were part of that scheme. So they invented something that was an incentive scheme right at the very beginning. And the more it progresses, the bigger the pot. So none of them want to stop because they're all so greedy. They want the pot to keep growing and growing and growing. And, ultimately they want the whole of America as the pot. They want to be able to take out the entire economic wealth of the American people and everything undergirding the U.S. economy, and they want to steal it and divide it amongst themselves. I mean, this is what Donald Trump has done his entire career. He's a gangster. He's a mobster. That's how he operates. And this is no different. It's just on the largest possible scale. And I guess the hubris about it is he thought he was going to get away with it. He thought he could actually scam the entire world and no one would notice or try to stop him. But in reality,
while threatening the whole world too.
Yeah. Oh, threatening everybody's existence. Meanwhile, we all sort of see it now. We also see his unseriousness, and we see what happens when the world just tells him to, F off, in the case of Mark Carney. And now he's really in a very difficult position, and not that I have any sympathy for him, but the crypto thing is what it's always been about. I've said it maybe a year ago when I started the crypto conspiracy investigation. It's all about crypto. That's the only thing they care about, because that is the money. The minute that becomes the US dollar disappears, they can slide it into the treasury. They just have to pump it up a little bit. And as soon as they've pumped it up, they'll all take their holdings like they do, because they do all these pump and dump schemes, and leave the American people holding the can for the biggest, heist in history. It's the greatest heist in history. Or would it be, had it been successful? There's a lot more of the story still to be told, and I'm sort of unpacking it week by week. But you're right to point about what's going on in Dubai, and what's interesting and what's really interesting there is the Binance involvement. Binance is a Hong Kong-based company. It's basically funded by China. Binance was just let off the hook by the Trump administration in their SEC investigations. These guys were under investigation for fraud, and they were let go. And what do? They run to do a deal with the president and his advisor. Sorry, it's what's called.
He's an advisor on World Liberty,
Yeah.
and he donated $75 million to start the World Liberty Fund. This is CZ from a company of Binance, and CZ last week confirmed, the CEO of Binance, who was arrested and charged with money laundering billions and billions of dollars. CZ is also asking Donald Trump for a pardon at the moment for his crimes, so he can leave the United States of America. And the money that he has already taken in, like, it's not it's talked about a $2 billion rug pull. We're talking billions and billions of dollars, but the money he's taken in just on transaction fees alone, between $600 and $700 million for the Trump family.
Oh, the Trump family. I was the first to report that. The initial take on that first day that they released the Trump coin and the Melania coin, I reported that was $100 million in the first day. And, it's a sensational amount for any president to have in that kind of money. To have it delivered to you on the way into the White House on your first day of your administration is the height of gold. It's so cheeky. It's so gross.
Keep doing it,
Keep doing it while you're in office. Keep at it.
Publicly.
Yeah.
Like they're not even hiding it. Eric Trump is on the board of this Dubai 2049 crypto fucking convention with some of the worst people in the fucking world. Including one gentleman who, if I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna just quickly grab this, and I know we got to move on to the next story. I apologize.
I'm not really sure where we are in the show anymore, but let's call this crypto story number 4, because we need to.
Let's call this crypto story number 4. Thank you. I appreciate you working with me today. I really appreciate that.
No worries.
And I
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to let you look for that stuff and just point out to people that the stakes are so high around crypto that the ratio between someone who has a shot at making some money in crypto versus the people who lose money in crypto, I worked out this ratio is 1 to 25,000. So, as an individual success story in crypto, for every single one of them, there are 25,000 people who've lost their shirt on the stuff. That is how complicated crypto is. It is such a tiny, tightly held group of people that whenever a meme coin is launched, like a Trump coin or a Melania coin is launched, only the first people in have any chance of getting money. Nobody else is really going to make any money unless you just got really lucky or you really timed it well. For the most part, everybody, like any consumer investor like you or me, is going to lose their shirt.
Yeah,
it's really a scam. It's the height of a scam.
It's a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
So his inner circle, these are the people that are running the whole fucking kit and caboodle. Zach Witkoff, the WLFI founder, no crypto experience, political family tie, no experience in banking or finance. Son of Steve Witkoff, who's been palling around with Putin in Russia on live television, Eric Trump executive, Trump org executive. He's a pitchman for crypto hotels in Dubai. Justin Sun, this one's really interesting. He's the founder of Tron and an advisor to World Liberty Financial. He also has been convicted of SEC fraud, and he has a current case against him, and his platforms have been used by Hamas and Hezbollah to fund terrorist activity against Israel and the Jewish people. And then, of course, David Sachs. He's a financier, and he's the owner of several of these exchanges and platforms. He is a pump and dump investment pro, Silicon Valley fundraiser, best friends with Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. This is who is enriching and making this possible. These are very, 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 very bad people. And it's all about how do we get as much money to this cat so we can do whatever the fuck we want and enrich ourselves in the process. Because if you want to, it's like being drunk. When you're really drunk, you want everybody around you to be drunk. When you're committing fraud to the tune of trillions of dollars on an international scale in public, and you know you're fucking probably going to get caught, you want as many fucking people involved as humanly possible, right? So this is it's crypto real estate money laundering is what it is, and I think it's a story that needs way more attention that gets none on social media, or at least it doesn't get any on X, which all that stuff has been absolutely buried, under the
That's why my reporting gets buried, That's
yeah,
why I
all the time.
Listen, I'll tell you the names that you mentioned: Peter Thiel, David Sachs, Elon Musk, the so-called PayPal mafia, have a peculiar inbuilt knowledge from their experience of being in mining, by the way, mining in South Africa. That might trigger you thinking about crypto mining. You also might think about them as being the experts in illegal money laundering or money transfers around the world, because in its heyday, when PayPal was first launched, it was basically used by transnational crime organizations to pass money from country to country, especially from China and especially from Russia. So, it was for years, and this was an open secret amongst them all. They knew it, that they were being basically used to run drug money, any sort of organized crime scheme money laundering of any form, human trafficking was all running through PayPal. And then they came up with these fraud schemes that were able to monitor all of this. But, truthfully, if you look at it, and this is the next piece of new feudalism, so I don't want to give too much away, but the crypto is a successor to PayPal. It's the next level of PayPal. And it's not surprising that it is maybe surprising to you, it's not surprising to me, that the people who are going to make all the money at the end of all of this are the same people who created PayPal. It's you don't have to look very far to figure out the connections. You can sort of say, okay,
the same people who funded Trump's otherworldly comeback to become the president of the United States. We'll keep you out of jail. We'll give you all the money you want. You give us anything we want. And that is exactly what's going on. And Trump is all in on the scam.
Oh, yeah, because he gets to be a billionaire finally. He gets to be part of this world of criminals. Who is one of the biggest, which country is one of the biggest miners of crypto in the world? Russia. Russia is setting itself up as the biggest crypto mining country in the world. Interestingly enough, where is crypto not allowed, is Bitcoin not allowed, is in China, because they know what's going to go on when they pull the rug on crypto. They understand exactly what's going to happen, which is why you can't really get into crypto if you're a Chinese national, unless you own one of these exchanges or these companies or other things, in which case go ahead, because you're going to do the dirty work for them. So, you've got a world which is, I think it's all becoming very apparent to everybody. I think everyone's beginning to see it. And thanks to people like Chris Murphy for really underlining.
It's right there, dude. It's right there. Like all the receipts are right there. These guys are showing up to do criminal business together in public, and having conferences around it.
Like, it's not the first time. And, and we've spoken about this before. I don't know if Satoshi, whatever his name was, the founder of Bitcoin, there is word out there, and I tend to believe it. I don't know the proofs. I'll say I think it's highly possible that Elon Musk is that guy. It just seems to me that this is not the kind of thing that they'd be spreading the risk around a lot of people. A lot of people know
he's been pretty quiet lately too, hasn't he?
Well, Elon, isn't he? Isn't he chasing a little bit? But
we haven't. Yeah, there's some guys that are laying low there. Peter Thiel likes to lay low all the time, but Elon is not he's not front and center as much as he was. I mean, and you're watching the House of Cards come down and this crypto thing getting a ton of pub. Interesting times.
I think it's really, it's telling what's going on inside the Trump world. I think
they're
it's falling
shitting
apart.
their pants.
And
Yeah,
I think they know that all eyes are on them, and I think they know that the world has sort of got onto them. I've had a love-hate relationship with these people, meaning I've loved to hate them, but I've been treating them very respectfully for 8 years. But every time I noticed this early on in the Trump-Russia investigation, they're very sensitive to the truth coming out. Like every time you drop a bit of truth on Trump world, they freak out. They really freak out about it. And, in some ways it's been the power of sort of independent media to be able to, or independent journalists like me to be able to, even though we have nothing, I sit at a desk in my kitchen, but being able to expose the truth at a time and just constantly erode their ability to bullshit the world with a little bit of truth every time really works. And hopefully it takes them down at the end. I really do, because it's way past time. Crypto is number 4. Crazy story at number 3. I had to throw this in because I can't believe it's actually happening. So Carrie Lake is now running the Voice of America.
Yeah.
Former almost governor of New Mexico. Mexico? All right.
No, she was the governor of Arizona. She was almost the governor. She kept losing, went with the big lie thing that Donald Trump did. Real shame, because I always thought she was very attractive and very bright. And then I listened to her basically become the female version of Donald Trump. And I'm like, what a shame. And then she lost and lost again. And then Trump gave her some stupid job as the head of the Voice of America, which then Trump defunded. And then there was a decision that went against the Trump decision to end the Voice of America. And that is, I imagine, where you're picking up the story and inserting Kari Lake into it.
Well, she is the head of VOA now, and she has decided to strike a deal with another news network to run their programming on VOA. You can't make this shit up. It's so ridiculous. It's beyond belief. But she is now allowing One America News, the most right-wing, the most extremist propaganda service in the entire world. She's allowing that programming to be replacing traditional VOA programming.
OAN?
OAN. This is the same outfit that I reported this years ago was related to the Moonies. The Moonies, the owner of this company. And the same outfit that did that whole recounting ballot thing that they did in her state, I think it was Arizona, right? Was created whole cloth by OAN. And you remember there was a lawsuit against the voting machines. There was the first one that was the big Fox News one, but then there was the next voting machine. I'll find the name for you here. It's somewhere in here. Anyhow, this Semantic or something like that was the name of the machine, of the voting machine company. Well, this is also that they were liable for, they had to pay a lot of money for creating that story around the fake votes and all around 2020. So this absolute idiot of a person who has no right in any journalism, who has no right in any, she was a journalist. Just in her fairness.
To be fair, she was the anchor for the 6 o'clock news in fucking Phoenix. Yeah. So let's not call her a journalist.
Yeah, she's making this decision now to let OAN News, which is propaganda, like it's just foreign-owned bullshit. I think they had.
It's foreign-owned by the Moonies and funded by a whole bunch of other religious lobby groups, by the way.
And Russia, what's the I can't remember his name. That famous Russian propagandist. It'll come to me. Maybe it won't these days. It doesn't come to me so quickly. There are a lot of Russian propagandists that have worked for there. They are creators of story. You remember when Rudy went to Ukraine in the search of all that stuff? That was OAN. He came back with all this documentary that supposedly revealed something but didn't reveal something.
Yeah, they covered that fake press conference with Rudy and the Russian-Ukrainian businessman that had a dossier on him that was empty, but they made it look like it had a whole bunch of shit in it that was really bad. Yeah.
So this is the network that is now replacing one of the most trusted voices around the world when it comes to journalism around the world. And the Voice of America, the people there are still out of work. Some of them are still suing the administration for their being fired. They have no right to be fired. They shouldn't have been fired. They have a duty to do the job that they've been doing that Congress gave them. But here she is allowing OAN to replace VOA. It's not even, it's just a travesty.
Let me explain this in terms that because what we're talking about is supplied content being pumped into one of the most trusted news outlets in America's history. Voice of America is a legendary international American news outlet that really did a fantastic job of informing Americans around the world. That's why they went with Voice of America. So let me just and OAN being it's a fake news outlet. It's an activist platform. It's a paid activist platform that gets paid to write stories, create narratives for the extreme right, to lie, to cheat, to steal. It's a Breitbart, but it's made to look like it's a real news outlet. It ain't. It's like Rebel News in Canada. It's the same basic kind of baked in bullshit activist platform. Let me explain this in a way. I was just thinking about an analogy because I like using analogies to kind of connect with a bunch of people. It would be like, and let me put it in school terms, it would be like firing all the teachers at a real school and saying, listen, there's not enough teachers here because, we had to get rid of all the teachers. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a whole bunch of people from prison, pedophiles from prison, and we're going to give them teaching jobs, and they're just going to deliver the message. They're going to educate people from now on. That's what having OAN supply syndicated content into the Voice of America to get pumped around the world is. That's the intention here. I don't know if it was always the intention. Kind of feels like that was the intention. Let's destroy this institution and let's change all the content and the programming and let's make this a fire hose of right-wing propaganda that can go around the world that will do nothing but cover up Donald Trump's pure incompetency, the lies and the corruption in this Trump regime. Because that's what this is. They've fired everybody from Voice of America, real journalists, legendary brand, and they're bringing a whole bunch of psychos and dollar store versions of journalists that are there to grind out narratives for the alt-right, protect Donald Trump, and amplify his bullshit, his authoritarian lies, and massage it all so that it's somewhat appetizing to people that are listening to it because they need this. So this is very, very Russian. This is very Chinese. This is very North Korean. Just so you understand what Donald Trump is doing to Voice of America and what Kari Lake is doing to Voice of America with OAN. And I didn't know that story, but as you're telling me that story, I'm like, oh my God, it's like getting rid of every single teacher in a school and replacing them with criminal pedophiles and giving them a pointer stick and saying, now go teach. Like, that's exactly what this is.
And he's pointed out, it is very Russian. It's not, they're not content with just like taking the service off the air. They have to go like piss in it. They have to like make it even worse. And they take the worst, most extreme example of anything and put it in place. And the thing that, VOA.
And it speaks to, here's the other thing. It truly does speak to the importance of controlling the media space, the information highway. It speaks to the importance of Donald Trump because he hasn't captured it all yet. He can threaten people. He can take things off the air. But now what he's doing is he's literally wrapping MAGA and all the disinformation and all the propaganda outlets that are there to try to protect us from his bullshit. He's wrapping those things he's taken Voice of America and he's wrapping it around literally one of the worst propaganda outlets in North America.
And this isn't only VOA's audience is around the world. It's not about getting to Americans. It's about getting to all these countries which don't have a free press and don't have free media that rely on BBC World Service, rely on VOA for the real news. And it's about taking out their trusted voice, trusted source of news, and replacing it with Russian propaganda. And the blatant way that they're doing this is just appalling. But it's just another example of just complete slide into totalitarianism and surrendering to Russia, which is what they seem to be doing. The number 2 story is, this is a really serious story. What Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump have done on the southern border is extremely serious because they've now created this national defense area. And it sounds to everyone like, Washington Post did a great piece today about this. It's a 60-foot strip of land along New Mexico's border. Like, so what? It's a national defense area. But really what they've done is they've taken the border and traditional American civilian land, and they've declared it a base, a military base. So if you're a immigrant or anybody else that decides to cross over into their military base, you can get arrested and charged with a bunch of criminal charges for, entering an unauthorized installation, like going into a military compound. It's not something that will be viewed very lightly by anybody. You could face penalties from 6 months to a year, also up to $100,000 in fines. But it's not being communicated to anybody. It's not being. There's no
You can also
signs.
get shot, by the way, for breaking
Yes,
into a
you
military
could.
barracks. Yeah.
But there's no signs. Well, apparently there are signs, but people can't necessarily see the signs. And they certainly, if they're coming across from Mexico or somewhere like that, they're not necessarily expecting this arrest or anything like that. Nor are they expecting reading these signs in Spanish. They're trying to get across the border. So that's on the one hand, just the blatant disregard for the lives of these people and them coming over. But the disregard for due process and about having American military on civilian land in the United States, running operations inside on the land in America, needs to be highlighted. I mean, this is the one thing that's sort of keeping us away from totalitarianism, is that the U.S. military does not operate on U.S. soil.
American soil. Yeah.
And here they are operating on U.S. soil, and barely even you see the story in the Washington Post. That was great. They did that today. But the noise around the fact that they're actually taking people, that's that funny worded law, the posse comitatus law, and that they basically are now operating on American land, that it's such an abhorrent misuse of the military, of American military. And it's designed to keep all these illegal immigrants, this alien invasion away. But it's not really about that. It's about operating on U.S. soil and operating under, as border control or whatever, but also operating where U.S. citizens are under their control.
Yeah, national emergency. That's how he decided, and the trigger, the emergency order to be able to turn the southern border, as you pointed out, into a militarized zone. And it's funny because I'm of two schools of thought when it comes to the immigration conversation. Right, I am, as an immigrant to Canada, I appreciate how my family got here. I know they came in legally. I know that there are desperate people that deserve to be given a second chance. That's what asylum is for. I get that as well. And I also get having strong borders. I don't want people in this country that come here illegally.
Sure.
I don't. So, and then you look at the drop in illegal crossings into the United States over the past 3 months due to the militarization of the border and the threats. And then you add on the fact that it is now an active military base, and I think it's, as you pointed out, 60 miles of this little strip of land that separates Mexico from the United States. That is, I think, 10 to 12,000 active duty officers. There's a troop buildup. There's an armament buildup. And so, Donald Trump, and this is one of the areas where I'm like, okay, anybody can run into a fastball from time to time, but how you run into a fastball is different. It's like, the way that he is militarizing this, the way he is expropriating land from citizens to be able to do this, the way he is militarizing in people's backyards. Like, there are fucking active duty people walking around in people's backyards going, sorry, that's our land now. So eat it, is just in keeping with who Trump is. And again, there's lots of different effects that come from this. So good things and bad things, but at the same time, it's again that whole obscure reference, obscure law that he grabs and reinterprets and uses it to militarize a zone in the United States and put active duty, which is not allowed in the United States. The American military is not allowed to operate in the United States of America unless they're on a military base. But American military's mandate is to fight war overseas, like it's the CIA's mandate. They're not supposed to investigate Canadians in America. They're not supposed to investigate Americans or operate in America. They're supposed to operate overseas. So this is a massive departure, and a departure that's just born out of a desire for power, a desire to be mean, a desire to be able to do whatever the fuck he wants without having any red tape, a desire to scare the shit out of people. And you know what? If it scared some people from not illegally entering the United States, so be it. But I mean, the optics are absolutely tremendously terrible.
But they were already having a success in keeping people from crossing the border. They didn't need to do this. What they needed to do this for is the same reason Hegseth yesterday announced a 20% reduction in the generals and high-ranking military officials in the Pentagon. It's because they want a compliant, authoritarian military that will do their bidding. When the protests come, when the dissent comes, when the revolution comes, that they will be able to rely on the military to suppress any uprising. And that is the really scary part of this. This is just a slow test of how.
Yeah, because if he does it there, right, you can do it anywhere. You can have a militarized zone around Harvard University. Stop. You could, you know what I mean?
You're going to create a crisis, and then you use whatever reaction to the crisis to respond, which is classic Putin. They created this immigration crisis, and then they built the base. Well, now the base is on American soil. So if you can do it there, maybe you can expand it. Maybe there's another crisis up the street and you can expand it there or wherever. And suddenly you've got military bases everywhere that people can't cross into until the whole country's covered up like that. And that is the really, for me, the one thing that's going to stop any, slide into complete totalitarianism is the military. And the more we see these attempts by Hegseth and others to claw the military into the Trump administration's fold is a really scary thing. And I will say, if there's one person who needs to get out of his office for just being a complete failure, it's Pete Hegseth. I mean, that guy should not be anywhere near anything important at all.
Did you see his, by the way, last little comment before we move on to the biggest story of the day? Number one, kids, it's coming up. Ooh. Did you see Hegseth's whole thing about, I don't give a shit about dudes in dresses? Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's like, we're remaking the military. I don't give a shit about dudes with dresses. And I'm like, dude, that has nothing to do with the fucking military. It's just, again, any way they can insert, some kind of anti-woke bullshit narrative into what they're doing to rally the troops and all the fucking dudes who have a problem with other people that wear dresses who maybe shouldn't be wearing a dress according to their value system, and saying, that was effectively him saying, we're de-gaying the military. And I'm like, Jesus
the Supreme Court
Christ.
The Supreme Court's letting them, get away with their ban of transgendered people. And, I got to tell you, I know some trans military people. And I'm not being light about this.
Are they openly trans in the military?
Yeah. In
Canada? United States?
America.
Yeah.
And I can tell you for sure that they are amongst the most fearsome, not frightening, just like masculine looking, not that that's the thing, but they're just incredible fighters, and they're so loyal to America, and they're so in it for the right reasons, and they are day in and day out doing the good fight for America in a loyal way that people who care about public service do this kind of stuff. And that this Pete Hegseth can come in there and start like messing around with people because, of his whatever, homophobia or transphobia, whatever he's got, is so sick because these people are giving their lives.
Yeah.
Have given their lives.
Yeah, they didn't want them in the military just because of their sexual preference or because of how they like to dress. You got to zoom out and talk about that. And, the interesting thing is, and I've got friends that are trans as well. My friend Zoe is trans. She's a truck driver, had to do this incredible back work just to be able to get the trans surgery, just to be able to get gender reassignment surgery. And that might be the toughest human being I know. That Zoe might be one of the hardest human beings I've ever met. Do you not want those people in your military? People that have seen the worst of life, people that have made some hard decisions, people that have gone through things that you couldn't fucking imagine. And you're like, we don't want you in the military. You want actually a special regiment of just trans men and women.
These guys would absolutely knock Hegseth and Vance out in a second in a fight. I mean, they wouldn't even be even a thought about it. And these guys are not even comparable to the bravery of some of these trans soldiers and the capability of some of these trans soldiers. Not that fighting is what it's about, but it's sickens me that we're in the state of withdrawing our rights for gay people, withdrawing our rights for trans people because this stupid cabal of mobsters is engaged in a scam to steal the American, trillions of dollars. The number one story of the day is Joe Biden giving his interview to BBC. This is very controversial. A lot of people have things to say about it. Here's a clip.
Did you leave it too late? Should you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She was fully funded. And what happened was, I had become what we had set out to do. No one thought we could do. And become so successful on our agenda, it was hard to say, "No, I'm going to stop now." I meant what I said when I started. That I think I'm prepared to hand this to the next generation, the transition government. But things moved so quickly that it made it difficult to walk away. It was a hard decision, but
regrets though?
No, I think it was the right decision. I think that it was just a difficult decision.
Kids in the background, by the way, that was the Sistine Chapel outside that was leaking in their audio. But wait, I'm a big fan of Joe Biden. I can say a lot of good things about him. I can also say, boy, does he look old, and boy, does
he sounds old too. Slower.
And every single one of these answers there, he was not able to really communicate everything he wanted to, which of course has been an issue for him all along. But I thought it was a really interesting, honest moment there where he was sort of like, we were swept up in the moment, we were swept up in our own success. And maybe I forgot about being that transitional leader. I had my own reaction to that, but I'd like to hear yours.
I really like Joe Biden. I really did. Analytically, by every major metric, he was a top 5 president in presidential history. From putting the economy back together to rebuilding international relationships to putting some respect on America's name after Trump took a massive shit on that beautiful country for 4 years. Unemployment, manufacturing, social programs. Joe Biden handed an economy to Donald Trump that was the envy of the world, like the envy of the world. But Joe Biden was too old to run for president. Joe Biden, and I'm not even talking about the optics of him, confused, walking around, not knowing where to go, because I didn't take part in the whole pylon Joe Biden thing. I really didn't. Because I think he's a statesman. I think he's had a very, very good life. I think he's seen some really shitty things in his life, from the death of his family members to, the stuff he had to go through with Hunter Biden. And I think it was time for him to walk away. But I'm really happy to hear him say, in an honest moment, that it was really difficult. I didn't really want to. I was originally going to be a transitional president, but as he pointed out, things moved so fast that he didn't think that he should have moved aside. And, we know what happened. The DNC and some people got in his ear, and including probably the vice president, and they said, hey, it's probably time for you to go. And it was right after that unbelievably disastrous press conference. Debate. Yeah, it was so hard to watch, and it really kind of gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. I'm kidding. It lent credence to the idea that the Democratic Party and should kindly move him aside, but it wasn't very kind. You know what I mean? And for Joe to have done what he did, and for him, which he should have done, I really believe he should have done it. Whether or not Donald Trump won or not, he wasn't going to win. I don't think he would have beat Donald Trump, and it's all revisionist history to talk. No, I really don't. But I also think that Kamala wouldn't have beaten him anyway. I really didn't. And I thought she was going to win right up until about a week before the election, where I'm like, it is so close, and this man is so crazy, but America is that racist and misogynist that Kamala Harris doesn't stand a chance. And outside forces being what they were, Starlink, we can talk about, it not being an authentic election. But, America pokes its racist, misogynist head out of the ground every 4 years and surprises the free world with a value vote that makes you question what America really is, right? And so I think Joe Biden was, listen, he'd be 3 months into his second term. And did you watch him in that interview?
No. It's hard
Right?
to. That's the point you got to take away from that. Is there's no ways you'd want that guy right now. I mean, I think that speaks a lot to his team and how good his team was. That agenda that they put together in 2020, and that was a runaway success. I mean, they were able to bring back America from a disastrous COVID pandemic and rebuild it in a way that was going to, both aggressive and building alliances around the world and supporting Ukraine and building out NATO and the CHIPS Act and all these other incredible things that they were putting in place. It didn't even matter that he wasn't completely functional, maybe, because the agenda was so good. And I think what he's saying there is things were going so fast, so good that he just didn't have, he couldn't even stop himself from because things were looking that in terms of their agenda that achieved so much. Obviously, he's too old to be the president of the country right now. And I'm not sure if these interviews are doing him any favors. I don't think they are.
They're just reinforcing that narrative, right? It's the reinforcement of the narrative that Joe Biden is gone. He's an 80-year-old. He's way too old for the job. He doesn't have the stamina, doesn't have the mental acuity. And I mean, that was on display right there in that, 30-second clip that you just played. And listen, I love Joe Biden. I think he's great. I think he's awesome. I think he's one of the best presidents. And I was at ease when he was the president. I was like, oh, after 4 years of Trump, I was like, oh, thank God, Joe Biden. All right, good. And I'm not at ease, but I think this is the road that America was on anyway. I think that Donald Trump and America weren't done with each other. I think they wanted to see if Donald Trump was the real deal or not the real deal. I think that they did a masterful job of specifically down the stretch campaigning and bringing in the right people to maybe rig that election in his favor, which he has admitted to dozens of times since being elected again. Right. So, I don't know, man. I felt sorry for Joe watching that clip, but I also was like, and Donald Trump shouldn't have been elected either. But I think if they brought in a guy like Gavin Newsom, who Donald Trump is obsessed with, by the way. I don't know if you watched that at the press conference.
You scum.
You bring in a guy like Newsom, and you're changing the conversation completely because he's a fucking killer.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant, and he's got a big heart, and he speaks to the democratic process. And on top of him being a killer, he's motivated, right? And he would have destroyed Donald Trump had Gavin Newsom decided that, I'll take a swing at this. And had the Bombay's doors open for a Gavin Newsom presidency run, we wouldn't be dealing with Donald Trump. And again, America comes out and hey, listen, racists and misogynists vote too, right? So I think that was Kamala Harris's undoing, and Kamala appeared weak sometimes too. Like, there's this joy factor that she pimped, and I'm like, a large portion of your base doesn't want this, even though it was fun to watch the rallies and the giggling and the balloons. They want a serious candidate to do a serious job to take him down. And then they had Tim Walz, who I love. I mean, Tim Walz probably would have won the presidency if they literally gave him an opportunity to do so. But the Democratic Party continually rams people down your throat, and Joe Biden was too old for it. Kamala Harris, there wasn't a big appetite for it. America doesn't want that. They'd rather have a strongman reputation than a beautiful, strong woman who likes to laugh and dance at White House events. Like that, it's really more about optics than anything in the United States.
And Americans love new stuff. They love people who are going to take a gamble. They love people who are going to try something new. And for better or for worse, even though he's not new at all, Donald Trump is just trying something new. And I think that they thought, well, I'm going to stick with the old guard and the safe, predictable thing that we've seen in the last few years. Oh, we're going to give this guy who claims to be able to revitalize us completely and rebirth us into this golden age. We're going to give him a shot. Will we be okay? Try and give them a shot. And, a lot of people, and people don't point this a lot, the crypto factor, just to go back to the beginning of the show here, is a huge factor. A lot of people voted for Trump because they own crypto, individual holders. And they're not traditional Republicans or anything like that, but they just want the money. They want the money. They want the pot of gold at the end of the crypto rainbow. And I think that's another factor that drove some voters away from Kamala, because she wasn't as pro crypto as Trump is. So
she's not a criminal, right?
Yes, she doesn't have any crypto, I don't think. She was at the Met Gala the other night. She looked good.
Yeah,
So
she looked great. I want to point this out too. Justin Bieber did not attend the Met Gala. Do you know why? Do you know why Justin Bieber didn't attend the Met Gala?
Why?
Because he stayed home to watch Game 1 of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Leafs won 5-4. Game 2 tonight. My son's going to the game. He's got his Leaf Bomber jacket on. I just want a quick shout out to Leaf Nation. We're going to be just fine tonight. I'm not predicting anything because I'm out of the prediction game, but we're up 1-0 in the series. We've got and it's at home. So first 2 at home, then we can do 2 in Florida, and hopefully we'll do 1 or 2 here and dispose of the defending Stanley Cup champions and light this city on fire. So go Leafs, go! I expected you to know none of that, which is why
I didn't know anything about that. In fact, I had no idea. So it's still the Rangers.
No. We're at Florida Panthers. Yeah, round 2 Stanley Cup playoffs.
Confused by how the
you 4 rounds. So let me explain the Stanley Cup playoffs to you. NHL, you get 4 rounds, right? And to win all 4 rounds, you got to win the Stanley Cup. You got 16 wins. You got to get 16 beautiful big wins, right? And now it's the final 4 in the Eastern Conference because you got Florida and you got the Toronto Maple Leafs, the number 1 and number 2 team in their division, locked in a battle. Sam Bennett concussed our starting goaltender, Andy Stolars, the other day. The Leafs have called up Ryan Reeves, who's just tank, who they save for these moments. He's going to beat the shit out of Matthew Tkachuk tonight and probably take out Sam Bennett on the way to Matthew's house to go eat his dinner. So there's going to be fireworks this evening, and if you're a Leaf fan, great, join me. We'll be watching it together. If you're not, no problem either. I don't really care, but playoff hockey in Toronto is a different animal. Sir,
you need a sports show. You need to be a sports guy. You need
I did it once for a year. 2 years.
Right, you did.
Fucking hated it. Yeah.
Okay, then forget about it.
Sports donkeys. That's all they talk about. I got to talk about other stuff too.
We're so lucky to have you here on the Fivestack. Dean Blundell, that's Substack.com. Check out his incredible Substack. It's amazing stuff, always full of amazing stories. You have been pumping out some really, really great stories, and everyone should check it out, including that crypto story we were talking about earlier on, plus all the stuff about Carney. There's a lot going on. And Dean Blundell, that's Substack.com. You can also check out my work at narrative.org, NARATIV.org. Thank you for being here on the Fivestack tonight. We shall be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. See you then. Bye-bye.